Today, we take a look at a forgotten Seiko 5. But I suspect after watching this today, it might not be quite so forgotten. Let's check it out. Hello everybody and welcome. So I think the intro might have been a little bit over the top, but I do think it illustrates a really good point. Seiko makes some really great watches, and then they discontinue those really great watches that we've all come to know and love. SKX as an example. Anyway, today's watch that we are looking at, I believe, is headed down that same path, or I should say is already down that same path, as trying to find the watch is getting more and more difficult. I'm talking today about the Seiko SKZ 211K1. This is from their Seiko 5 sports line. I think it's probably more affectionately known as the Landshark. So the Landshark was released back in 2012, and I really just believe this watch just really had maybe some trouble finding its niche because of the way it is designed and the way it looks. It looks a little bit like a dive watch, and it looks a little bit like a field watch. So I don't know. I feel like the watch kind of suffered from a bit of an identity crisis. But let's go ahead and take a look at this watch right now, and let's see what we can find out. So to start with, the watch has a case dimension size of 43 millimeters. You have a case width of 14 millimeters and a lug to lug of 49 millimeters, so it's a little bit on the bigger side. You have a lug width of 22 millimeters, which really allows for you to have a bunch of different strap options. And the fact that it has drilled lugs makes it so much easier to make those strap changes happen very easily. You also have a hard Lex crystal. So Seiko pretty much puts hard Lex crystals on pretty much everything except some of their Prospects line, and then they kind of go to sapphire, but that's another story. You have a water resistance here of 200 meters. And this is where I kind of think we start having that identity crisis. It's starting to sound like we're going down a dive watch, road right here, but your movement that we have in this is the 7S26. Now, this is the same movement that was in the SKX at the time. So pretty much the same movement. Now, the weight on this watch is 153 grams. That's with the supplied bracelet. So it is a little bit on the heavier side, but I think you're going to find here as we go through this that the watch itself, I just feel like, has more of a field watch aesthetic, but it just kind of goes back and forth. I mean, I really enjoy the way the watch itself is designed, just the ruggedness of it. The cross hatching on the crown. There's two crowns on this watch, by the way. There's one at the 4 o'clock position, and there's one at the 9 o'clock position. And then, of course, you have the bezel itself. All of those are cross hatched, and they just look really tough, and they look really rugged. And they just protrude and they just stick right out there. The case itself, bead blasted. It looks really good. I think it's just got a very purpose-driven, purpose look to it. It's kind of like a dive watch and a field watch had a child, and this is what you got. So let's take a look a little bit at the lume on this watch, and then let's continue on our conversation.
So here we have the start of our Lume test. Now I compressed this from about 15 minutes down to a lot shorter than 15 minutes. But as you can see here, we have the proprietary Seiko Lume Bright. And it does really well, very clear on the numbers and so forth. But, it does fade out over time. But I will say that in my experience using the watch at night, it actually holds the lume pretty well. We're talking a few hours at least. So I think overall, the lume on this watch is very good. Seiko's Lume Bright usually always holds its own against pretty much everybody else. So overall, I give that a pretty dang good score.
Okay, so let's take a look at these crowns in a little more detail here. So you do have the crown at the 4 o'clock, and you have a crown at the 9 o'clock. Now the crown at the 4 o'clock does the standard setting of the date, the day, and the time.
Now you do have here at the 9 o'clock, this one actually rotates a compass that is an inner bezel here. And you can see it when you turn it. And it'll go forwards and backwards. It is bidirectional, so you can use it in both ways. Now, the crown at the 4 o'clock is unsigned, but the crown at the 9 o'clock position, that actually is signed. So I'm not sure why they chose to do it that way, but so there you have it. There's what you use the crown at the 9 o'clock position for. This is actually a compass that you can set, and in the owner's manual, they give you instructions on how to set this compass bezel and use it.
Okay, so overall, my thoughts and my impressions of the Seiko 5 Landshark, I really like this watch. I really do. It has weight on the watch, just enough to let you know that you are wearing the watch, but not light enough to where you feel like you've got to baby it and be careful with it. The look of the watch overall just really kind of puts out a tough, rugged, utilitarian, just kind of that kind of a feel overall with this watch. Looking at the bead blasted case, you have the crown at the 4 o'clock and at the 9 o'clock that have that cross hatching. You have the crown guards at the 4 and the 9 also. Again, giving it a really rugged, protected kind of a feel. You have the cross-hatched bezel, 120 click, no back play, but the bezel itself feels tall and easy to grip and easy to hold on to. It's just overall a great watch. The dial, it just looks great. Not super cluttered, just enough on there so that you can read it. The hands, also, at a glance, at night, doesn't matter where. You can look down and you will know what time it is. Great watch overall. Now, are there some drawbacks? Yeah, there are some drawbacks. I'll start with the movement. The 7S26. It would have been nice if they would have put in, you know, maybe like the 4R36 so that we could have hacking and hand winding. Now, I think that's a little bit of a, well, you know, that's a nice thing, not really kind of a drawback, but I'm going to call it a drawback. What's the other thing I didn't like? Well, I felt like it's not so much that I didn't like it, I just wish they would have done something to maybe lock down the compass, because when you wear the watch on your wrist, as you move, your arm will rub up against that 9 o'clock crown and it will make the compass inner dial turn, and it kind of throws things off. So I kind of think that's just one of those, if you're trying to use it as a compass, you're going to have to be really careful because it's going to move around on you. And I think that's probably something that they probably should maybe have put a locking mechanism on it. I don't know. Overall, though, I really kind of struggle with this watch too in the bezel, especially the bezel insert. Now, it has this kind of a dive watch bezel, but the insert just kind of has the standard Arabic markings at 5, 10, and 15, 20, all the way to 60. There's not a lume pip, so it's not really being a dive watch, is it? So I can't really kind of figure out where this watch fits. So I kind of hesitantly put this in the field watch category, although it has the 200 meters of water resistance that really kind of gives it a dive watch feel. Not to mention that the watch itself just kind of also feels like a dive watch. Anyway, so those are my final thoughts on this watch. So there you have it, the Seiko 5 Landshark. Is it a dive watch? Is it a field watch? I don't know, you tell me. Why don't you leave a comment below and tell me what you think about this watch. And tell me if you think there's other Seikos that have kind of gone the way of the dodo bird, as it were. Now, if you do want to pick up one of these Seiko 5 Landsharks, I've left some links in the description below. There's one to Amazon, of which I am an affiliate. So if you do use that link, I do get a small commission. Now, there is also some links there below to eBay. You can find this watch on eBay in various conditions of new and used and so forth. So if you want to pick one of those up, take a look at the links below. And while you're there, please consider leaving a like and subscribe to my channel for more content just like this. And if I have you for a minute, why don't you check out some of these videos over here? These are some really fantastic reviews and watches that I think you're going to enjoy. Thanks again for watching.